Hello, welcome. My name is Jakob Munck, and in this short video lecture I'm going to talk about 5 ways to use Virgin Mary in your daily life. This is not a speech for religious people. You don't have to be a Catholic, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, atheist, or anything at all. You can have your own faith. It makes no difference, because Virgin Mary is an idol in any kind of religion. She has a very high status, of course, in Christianity. She also has a very high status in Islam. And she has a very high status in Hinduism, although she has another name in Hinduism. And even Jews admire Virgin Mary. So Virgin Mary is an icon that we can all use in our daily life. We can use her as some kind of moral and intellectual, spiritual inspiration, and we can use her as an object for prayer, because Virgin Mary is a spiritual figure. And it is as a spiritual figure we can use her in our own life. Basically, Virgin Mary has 4 capacities that we can use. She has a strong will, she has a high knowledge, a very, very high ethical standard, moral standard, and she has a huge and very deep spirituality. These are the 4 issues that we can read about in the Bible and the other sources of information we have about Virgin Mary. I'm talking about the historical Virgin Mary. And I suppose that Virgin Mary nowadays, I suppose she is in heaven, she has the same abilities, or she understands these abilities and wants to help us develop them ourselves. And let's get back to point number 1, how to use Virgin Mary in our daily life. And point number 1 is to clean up your life, clean up your home, clean up your relationships. To clean up, that's a very physical demand. Clean yourself. Wash yourself, clean your house, clean your clothes. Always be clean in a physical way. That makes you feel much better, and it makes it much more easy for you to have good relationships to other people. But you also have to clean up your relations, and that is in a more social, psychological way. To clean up your relations, that is and find out what is the value of this relationship. You have a relationship to each of your children, to your husband, to your father, to your mother, to your colleagues and job, to your friends at home. You have a lot of social relationships. And I tell you, take them one by one and consider if they are good, if they are bad, or if they are neutral. If they are good, very good, continue. Don't make too much changes, because you want to have good relationships. If they are neutral, well, maybe you should let them stay that way. Maybe you should work a little to get these relationships more close, or maybe you shouldn't use too much time to think about them. And last but not least, you have bad relationships. Bad relationships, you have 2 possibilities. One is to forget them, to say, okay, I don't want to use any more time with these people. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to engage my feelings in my relationship to them. So that means I nullify them in a moral sense in my mind. They do not have any more influence on my my thinking. They do not have any more influence on what I'm using my time for. Or maybe you should try to change these relationships. It depends on how deep and how complex the problem is, and you have to consider that all by yourself. Remember, it's not possible to have close relationships to all people in the world. If you are a member of Facebook, many people on Facebook, they have maybe 200 or 300, 400 friends on Facebook. But there is a big difference between Facebook friends and really friends. Facebook friends, that's just a phrase for a person who wants to be connected to you in some very loose way. To be a real friend, it demands your engagement in a moral, in a real way. You have to use time together with people if you want to keep up their friendships. So you have to go through all your friendships and find out if some of your relationships needs to be changed to another category. So you don't have to use too much time and mental energy to think about bad relationships, because that is just waste of time. If you have a bad relationship, either you have to forget this person or you have to change it. Point number 2, when we are talking about 5 ways to use Virgin Mary to improve our daily life. Point number 2 is to find a goal. Point number 1 was inspired by Virgin Mary, who had a very good relationship to her family, to her child, to her husband, and probably to all the people she met and communicated with. That's the impression we get from reading the scriptures, and I believe that. Virgin Mary was a very intelligent person. Find your goal. That is number 2. That is number 2 in our 5 ways of using Virgin Mary to improve our own life. Find your goals. Find your personal challenges. Find the perspectives in your own life and find out what you need. Well, you can't have a happy life if you're just like, I would say, maybe a leaf floating around in the wind. You have to have your own will. You have to know what you want. You need to have a goal, to have something you're working to acquire. You have to have some ideals and try to fulfill these ideals. And these ideals you need to think about in your own head. So that is very important. If you don't have a goal, you will never find out if you reach any goals. And it has no influence, no meaning to seek for anything if you don't have some goals. And these goals has to be strategic goals and short-term goals, long-term and short-term goals. You don't have to have a precise receipt about how to reach your goals, but you need to have these goals, because if you don't have any goals, you don't know if you're walking the right way or not. Let's go to way number 3. Understand and appreciate your fellow human beings as spiritual beings. It's very important for you and for everyone to understand who are you yourself and who are your fellow human beings. Basically, there are two ways of understanding a human being. One is to see this human being as a computer, as a robot, as a meat machine, as a collection of genes. That means like a robot. But human beings are not robots. Robots, they do not have a free will. But human beings, they have a free will. Why? Because we are not only made of meat. We are not only made of atoms. We are not run only by the physical laws of biology. No, we are spiritual beings. I am a spirit that lives in a body. I have a body, but I am a spirit. That's a very short way of telling who you are and who I am and who everyone in this world is, because that is a characteristic of every living human being in the world. And this is very important. It's not banality, not at all, because there are a lot of people saying the opposite, saying you have no free will. No, because you are a biological machine, a robot. And if you are a biological machine, that means that nothing is good and nothing is bad. You don't have to have your own goals, because your own goals has only a meaning if you have a free will. You can say, okay, I'm only the result of the social surroundings. I'm only the result of biology. I have no responsibility myself. If you say like that, I'm sorry, but probably you're going to be a loser. And I don't want you to be a loser. I want you to be a winner. And to be a winner, you have to follow Virgin Mary, because she was a real winner. Advice number 4. Understand spiritual psychology. It's not enough for you to understand yourself and other human beings. You have to understand and use spirituality. Virgin Mary was a very spiritual person. And to use spirituality, that means, first of all, to study and to learn. You have a brain, and the free will in your brain, it rules what you're doing and how you're thinking. Not 100%, because of course your surroundings and other people, they have a big influence on your life. But still, you have the freedom to choose what are you going to use your time to, how you're going to use your brain, what will you use your intelligence, what kind of problems will you use your intelligence to solve. You also have the possibility of studying to be a more spiritual person, not because you want to be a monk or nun or to go in a monastery or to be an Indian guru, not at all. I only want you to be a purely normal person. But to have spirituality is the same as being able to understand that the world is more than just physical matter. There is something like heaven. There is something like spiritual world. There is something like good and bad. There is something like free will. Your life has a meaning. You're not just a robot. If you were a robot, your life would have no meaning at all. But you are not. You are a human being. That means you are a spirit. And this is very important to understand, because this is the reason that you are able to change not only yourself, but also other people. That's why you have such a huge responsibility. Maybe you are a parent. Maybe you are a leader on your job. Maybe you are a leader in some kind of organization. I don't know. I'm sure you have a contacts with many other people. That means you have a responsibility. But your responsibility is to help these people to set up goals for their own life and to reach these goals. You're not allowed in a moral way to take the freedom away from other people. Not at all. That's not your job. You need to have freedom yourself, and other people needs to have the same kind of freedom. But because you know they have freedom, they are able to choose. And when you want to learn something, first of all, you have to choose to learn. To choose to learn. That is a very important phrase, because your whole life is about learning. Learning about people, learning about economy, learning about computers, about life, about your job, about everything. Everything you have to learn. And to learn, you need to decide, I want to learn. So now we come back to the central issue of what we can learn from Virgin Mary. You have a free will and you can decide yourself you want to learn. And the last point on my 5-point list is not only to study, but also to pray. Because you can't change everything in this world. This is not possible. People get sick. People die. People suffer. We need change, and we need your help. You are a very important person. And to strengthen yourself, to be more able to reach your goals, the most important thing you can learn is to pray. I'll show you how to pray. You do it like this. You close your eyes, and then you pray inside your own head. So only you yourself and God knows what you are praying for. This is the way you pray. You won't get everything you pray for, but you can be sure that the spiritual world, Virgin Mary, God, someone is listening. And this is very important, because when you pray, you get stronger. And when you get stronger, you get a better life. Thank you for listening.